Lady Gaga. Well, actually, I didn't really start in the dance scene. I started more in the dive bar scene, which is really a lot of nerdy record collecting DJs. And I started go-go dancing and giving my records to the DJs in those bars. And then as I became more well-known, it started to spread into the dance scene. And it's really, it's sick. I mean, it's club kids. There's still like a real scene down there. People have personas. The nightclubs feel like a culture. The music is underground, but it's also mainstream. I mean, it's a really cool environment. I feel like I have always been an artist, and that I became more of an artist once I started to play out all the time downtown. But it really wasn't until I got signed to Interscope and until I got a tiny bit famous in New York that I really became more of a dance scene artist and out in the clubs than before. So I would have to say, like, right around the time when I got signed, I almost got arrested in Chicago for wearing short shorts. I was in W Magazine, cover of Women's Wear Daily. So really when I started being myself, I mean, I've always been an artist, but when I started to be just who I really am, which is a provocative exhibitionist, somebody that does things for attention pretty shamelessly, that's when I was like, okay, so just be who you are, and then that's your artistry. Well, I'm a New York Italian. My father used to play Pink Floyd, Zeppelin, Beatles, Billy Joel, Elton John records all the time, and he used to, we had a record player in the living room, and he used to like pick me up when I was a kid, and he would like twirl me around, and I mean, I had a really amazing childhood, a lot of culture, a lot of meatballs, a lot of marinara, you know? So music was a big part of my family. I mean, even like, you know, listening to Andrea Bocelli over dinner, Frank Sinatra. Theater became a huge part of my life, a lot of because of that. I mean, I used to listen to the Sinatra duets like on repeat with my father all the time. And then my mother made me play piano when I was 4. It was kind of a discipline thing, and she used to say, you don't have to practice, but you got to sit there for an hour every day. You can either play or you can just sit there. And probably for the first couple of years, it was like, you know, I used to sit at the piano and like I'd start banging, and I was a really bad kid. And then I got bored just sitting there, so I started to play, and then I got really, really great at classical piano. So when I was 4, I started taking piano lessons, and I really hated it at first. I mean, I enjoyed playing, but I wanted to play by ear, mostly because it was faster for me. I could just like listen to something and just start playing it. Whereas reading music was more disciplined. I had to like, you know, learn the notes, and so I hated practicing, but my mom used to say like, don't move. Like, you sit there for an hour, you can either like practice your scales or you can do nothing. So I used to be, you know, a real asshole and sit there and like start banging, or I would just like, you know, do that. And eventually I got bored, so I just started to play, and I got really, really good. And I got really good very fast. And that's how I am. If I'm not very good at something right away, I don't want to do it. There I go with my finger. It's everything. It's who I am. It's culture, it's family, it's my heritage, it's my fashion sense. You know, I'm inspired by the street, but I'm also like obsessed with the gangster mob princess and the you know, in Scarface. And I mean, that's not Italian, but you know what I'm saying. The casinos and the gaudiness, and it all really plays into the concept of my album, The Fame, because for me, Italians and that sort of gaudy culture is a way of self-proclaiming your own fame without, you know, $8 million. Well, I was gonna go to, was it Juilliard or Manhattan School? I think it was Juilliard. I was really interested in going there for this like weekend pre-college program, and I actually got like really nervous before my audition and decided to go to acting school, which actually ended up being better because so much of what I do now is persona related, and Lady Gaga, me, it became who I am now, but it was like it was a self-discovery that really was found through acting and sense memory and figuring out, I mean, like things like, you know, certain positions and dance moves that I would do would resonate more with me than others. Like I suck at ballet, but I was excellent at jazz and theater. The artists that for me have been the most influential, I mean, like Madonna, David Bowie, I mean, of course I love them for their music, and not to sound vain or shallow, but I'm almost more appreciative of their work because of their visuals. I mean, it completely changes the way that you listen to the music. I moved to the Lower East Side when I was, well, 18, I moved to East Village, and then Lower East Side when I was 19. And, you know, everybody dressed different, everybody talked different, everybody's swagger was different, and I'm somebody that likes to experiment with different things, so I bought a lot of leather and a lot of sequins, and I started making, I was go-go dancing for fun, so I started making my costumes because it was cheaper and also fun. And it's a really big influence on the music because I sing about the lifestyle. I'm not making underground music, I'm making pop records about an underground lifestyle. That's the difference. The Lower East Side, there's like a little bit of a metal glam scene, and I started to sort of take, you know, elements from that I liked. The rock star's girlfriend. That was the real beginning of my fashion. It was not so much I want to be the greatest rock and roll band that ever lived. I wanted to be the greatest rock and roll band that ever lived, lead singer's girlfriend. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be the girl backstage at the Motley Crue concert in the feather dress doing Nikki Sixx's eyeliner. You know what I mean? Like, it was just kind of different. But I'm also obsessed with Versace, Gucci, Dolce & Gabbana, Fendi, Valentino. I mean, like delicious fabrics and cuts and silhouettes and the way that you can change the way a woman's body looks, the voodoo. I mean, that stuff is my life. So it's, how do you make $5 look like $5 grand? How do you feel like $5 grand when you've got $5 in your pocket? And I'm not like, I wasn't a poor kid, but I said, Daddy, I want to be a rock star. He said, go be a rock star, you know? So I figured it out. And in downtown New York, and really in New York everywhere, really in the world, you have the ability to self-proclaim your own fame. You have the ability to experience and feel a certain amount of self-worth that comes from a very vain place by simply like your choices, your opinions about fashion, your opinions about music, your opinions about politics, the way that you walk down the street, the way that you carry yourself at parties. I mean, you can literally choose to have fame. And that's what this whole album is about. And I really, honestly do not care a tiny bit what people think about it, because I'm not posturing that it's good or that it's bad. I'm struggling with the idea, and it's affected my life in the most positive way. I mean, if anyone said, who is Lady Gaga, I would be okay with, she is the most impressive con artist of fame. I mean, I literally trick people every day into believing that I'm somebody, and I'm not. I mean, look at Paris Hilton, right? She's like, I mean, I love her, and I'll tell you why I love her, because she is a rich girl who's done nothing, but everybody in the world knows this chick's name. How did she do it? She chose it. She took it. It's like, I mean, there's all of these socialites, the underground, but I'm using an example like that because it's something that everybody can relate to. They know who she is. For me, it was going out downtown and realizing that there was a social class, a small one. I mean, there was literally like the top tier of Rivington Street, and I'm like, who are these kids? Who the hell do they think they are? But that's exactly it. It's the nerve. All you gotta have is nerve. That's the one thing that keeps me up at night. I say to myself, who the hell am I to do what I do? Why do I deserve this? Who am I to do this? And Then I remember that I'm talented. And then I remember that I'm actually very good at what I do. I'm extremely educated, but that's not something that I'm not like one to like be defensive about my work. It is what it is. You either love it or you don't. Most people like it. But yeah, I mean, it's about taking pop culture and taking the media and using it in a positive way. Look at Perez Hilton, for example. You know, he completely grabbed fame by the vocal cords and choked the world using fame, using people's obsession with the celebrity. I mean, why? Who really cares, right? Why do we care so much? Well, I started playing piano when I was 4, around, you know, about, I'd say 12. I was in a boutique in New York, and I was singing a Backstreet Boys record. I forget, I think it was I Want It That Way. I think that was it. So I was singing this Backstreet Boys record, and the guy that worked in the store, Evan, I still remember his name, I haven't seen him in 800 years. He goes, "Are you a singer?" And I said, "No, you know," I was like, and I'm 12 years old, like, what am I doing in a boutique after school? It was just kind of one of those really random moments. And he said, "Well, you've got a really great voice. I think, you know, maybe you should call my uncle. My uncle, he teaches voice." His uncle was Don Lawrence. And anybody in the business who knows about music teachers knows that Don Lawrence is by far the best teacher in the world. So he had, you know, no room between Mick Jagger, Bono, Christina Aguilera, you know, you name it, he gave them a voice. Or at least, you know, he was, you know, working with them on their tour. So anyway, I started working with him. He was my mentor. He's still my mentor till today. He encouraged me to start writing music. So around 13, I started writing records, stuff on the piano in my house. So I moved from classical to pop. And I started noticing that, okay, well, the Bach chords are the same as the chords for this Mariah Carey record, right? So I just started like picking up on little things, you know, doing small chord progressions. Then I started doing coffee houses. You know, I put together a coffee house at my high school just because I wanted a place to play. I would sneak out and go to the bitter end. I would, you know, go downtown to McDougal Street with the seniors from Regis High School just to experience the, you know, music nightlife in New York. Then I was in a cover band when I was 16. I would do, you know, Zeppelin records, Jefferson Airplane, U2. And then I went to NYU for 1 year. Keep in mind, during all of this, I'm doing musicals, I'm in bands, I'm writing records, I mean, if you were my family, you did not see me for 5 years. I mean, I was out doing everything. And then I went to college for a year, and I hated it. Not the studying. I love, you know, I was a good student. I love to learn, but I wanted to work, and I wanted to make music. So I was in the Tisch program. I dropped out. I told my parents I'm leaving. I'm going to get an apartment and 8 jobs. And they were like, have a good time, kid. And they were really supportive, you know, and I really went for it. My dad gave me a year to get signed, and I did. So then I got dropped, then I got signed again. And in between the 2 record deals, I put together a variety show with me and a DJ, Lady Starlight. She was a go-go dancer. She got me into go-go dancing. I thought she looked so amazing on stage, so I just said I have to start. And it's really been a long, long journey. I don't remember not doing this. It's just always been my life. But I don't know. It's funny, people say to me, where do you want to be in 5 years? Or what are your goals? My goal is to be right here. It's like this moment, what we're doing right this second, it's to have a career. It's to be working in music, making music. I love writing for other artists. I love working with new producers. It's just, endless, and I want to inspire people. The record's called The Fame, but it could be called like The Inspiration, to be like cheesy, you know? I mean, it's really me like wanting to inspire the world with an idea. It's an idea. I happen to be great at music. I'm better with ideas. Beautiful Dirty Rich I wrote in my panties, dancing around to a track in my bedroom. You know, that's one way that I write. Other ways I write are at the piano. I'll, you know, really stick to the chords, really try to come up with really beautiful progressions. But I find that all of the, you know, quote-unquote hit pop songs, if you will, are when I am, like, doing the dishes, not paying attention, or joking around with my friends. Let's have some fun this beat. I mean, I'll just literally be doing something that's funny, and it becomes a song. I mean, it's really the best way. It's simple, it's catchy, it's hooky, it's peppy, it's snappy, you know, it's quick. And Just Dance, which is my first single, I wrote that song in honestly 10 minutes. Me and the producer, Red One, who I've known before I was signed to Interscope, we did a record long before called Boys, 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 which was the record that really got me noticed. But I was so excited to be in the studio with him in LA. You know, Vincent Herbert, who signed me, got us the record plant. I felt like I was, you know, Madonna in 1985. I was like, oh my God, this is so huge. And they, you know, people were coming and asking me if I wanted something to drink. I was like, I'll get it. You know, it was just ridiculous. So I had this beautiful studio, and it's funny because we took pictures, and Red One and I don't use equipment in the room usually. We will for vocals. We'll use certain compressors and Neves and stuff, but for making the actual music, we just use MacBook Pros. So you see pictures of us in these like absolutely gorgeous, state-of-the-art, amazing, expensive studios, and the two of us are like in a corner at our laptops working. So we sat down, and he went, literally, he's like, oh, Gaginetti. He calls me Gaginetti. He's Swedish. Well, he's Moroccan, lived in Sweden. He's got a crazy accent. And he calls me Gaginetti. And all of a sudden, he says, I had this idea, and I hear, and I admit it, literally, I go, I've had a little bit too much. I went right into it, and Troy, my manager, was there. And I remember being so nervous, because I don't allow anybody to be in the studio while I'm writing, but I couldn't say no, because he's my manager, and I'm like, I can't say no. So he was in there, and I was a little bit nervous, like, oh my God, it's the first time he's seeing me write. But we wrote that record in 2 seconds. Vincent Herbert walked in. He was like, oh my God, that's it. Leah Linden, who I work with too, she's my other manager, she came in and she was like, play that dance one. I want to hear that dance one again. I mean, it was instant. Everybody went crazy. And Akon, you know, who we did the record with too, he's such a down-to-earth guy, and for me, it was like, he's like the most worldly, like, cultured. He's like a hip-hop R&B guy, you know. For him to be into my stuff, like a white chick from New York who does, like, dance music, disco, pop, I was like, I don't know what he's gonna think of this. And when we started working on it, he really was into it, and he was like, that's it. Everybody just knew, this is it. This is the one. And the record that took me 10 minutes, you know. My music is pretty much a reflection of my transition from New York uptown to New York downtown, and all the things that I've discovered. And it's everything, you know, it's pop, it's a little bit, you know, hip hop R&B, it's got dance elements, it's got electro. I rap sometimes, I sing, you know, I do everything. It's really, it's about my journey. It's really heavily influenced by fashion and lifestyle, and it's new. It's Lady Gaga. It is absolutely 100% a concoction of my love of 70s glamour, 80s synth sounds, dance, club fever, disco. A lot of my melodies have a real 50s Beatles quality. Glamour, filth, rock and roll. It's got, I mean, Boys, Boys, Boys is a metal song trapped in a pop star's body. I mean, I think about everything when I'm writing, but I'm constantly being influenced by different things. I'm like a little sponge. So it's pop, but for me, pop is the new underground. Everybody said goodbye to it for a little bit, and we started to really start bowing down to all of these rising indie acts. But I feel that I don't feel that there's anything wrong with the major label music machine. I remember standing outside of TRL with, you know, NSYNC and Britney written all over my face, crying because if I could see her hand, you know what I mean? That, you can't buy that. It is so intense to be a super fan. I mean, granted, I was the same way at the Neil Young concert, you know what I mean? But it's like, I feel that it's been lost a little bit. I don't know if artists are lazy and they don't care about how they dress or what it is, or if it's you can't download a lifestyle. You can't download an icon. You have to touch them. You have to figure, what do they eat? How do they sleep? Do they sleep like this? Are they on their side? Are they on their back? Does she sleep in sequin panties upside down with someone like, you know, fanning her with a bow? I mean, I don't know, but it's a fantasy, and it's really beautiful and really special. For me, it's like my Michelangelo painting. It's like I wanna create that again. If anything, the fame and this record and my music is about recreating the pop star and giving it back. Well, my live show is like a musical. There's dancing, I sing live, but with the track, so it sounds like a lot like the record. I spin with a DJ. We're working with Space Cowboy right now, who's amazing. And it's like a variety show. I mean, the dance style is not hip-hop. It's, you know, like late 70s jazz. It's got a little Fosse in it. It's got a little, I don't know what. I work with Lorianne Gibson. You guys know her from Bad Boy, Making the Band. Well, you might know her from everything because she's pretty much legendary. But working with her has been incredible, molding the show, because I remember when I first met her, I walked in, my hair was black. I had on see-through leopard tights with a thong and like some ridiculous jacket and these huge Elton John sunglasses. And I was like, hi, Lorianne, like the nerdiest chick ever. And she looked at me and she was like, hello, Muffin. Like, oh my God, who's this girl? And then I played her my record and she goes, oh, really? That's what she said. Oh, really? And the show is really, it's intended to give you a stomach ache. I'm not trying to like just entertain anybody. I really want to bother everybody. I want everyone to go like a little bit like, oh my God, what is she doing? Ew, what's going on? But the records are pop. It's a pop record. It's a pop show, but the visuals and the ideas and the fashion is really forward-thinking. It's completely 150,000% my own. Everything that you see, the disco bra in the video, I made it. The disco bra on stage, I made it. The corset, the chains, it's like everything's been put together so strategically. And if it's not, I'll like have anxiety about it. We'll go on stage because it's got to be perfect.
Lady Gaga, first of all, congratulations on the Billboard record.
Thank you.
How was it?
It's exciting. It's really exciting. We've got 3 #1s in a row, all of my debut record, and the first 2 are 2 of the top-selling digital songs in history, so that's great. And I'm the only one to have written all the songs. So I feel really great about that. I'm excited.
Yeah, and you've worked really hard to get here. Can you say something about the journey to the top, so to say?
Well, it's been a long journey. So since I was, I don't know, I've been writing since I was 11, 13, started to play out and was in clubs by the time I was 15. I've been signed and dropped to several record labels, and here I am. Just never gave up.
Yeah, because that was never an option, giving up.
No, you know, if I wasn't here with you right now, I'd be in a bar in New York playing music. I'm an artist through and through. It's not about record sales.
And you also have a very individual style. Who inspires you?
I love Grace Jones, and I love the Grim Reaper. I love all sorts of things. Yeah, I'm quite obsessed with monsters right now.
Oh, wow.
Maybe that's accounting for the lavender hair.
Is it important to you to stand out in a crowd? Is that something that you try?
I think it's important for everyone to stand out in a crowd. Part of the philosophy of the fame, which is that intrinsic sense of fame, is that you want people to say, I don't know who that is, but I want to know who that is. But it's not about being crazy. It's about knowing who you are. I love glamour, and I live a glamorous life, and I live with that glamorous life every day, every minute.
Musically, who inspires you?
You know, John Lennon's my biggest inspiration, and so I've got this tattoo.
And, well, have you ever arrived at a party and noticed that someone's wearing the same thing as you?
No. Nope. Not ever.
In many of the songs on the Fame, it seems that there is an underlying theme of lost love. Is that self-experienced?
Well, yes. I think love and lust are common feminine themes and masculine themes. Most music is ultimately about sex.
But how is it going from writing songs for big stars till now being a role model? Is that something you think about?
My intention was always to make my own music, and I was making my own music while I was writing for other people, so it's not much of a transition at all. It's more like a dream come true.
But how is it dealing with paparazzis following your every move?
It's fine.
It's okay?
I just ignore that stuff. I care about my fans.
Has there been any experience with fans that has touched you in any way in particular?
So many. I just get beautiful letters and gifts, and they write songs and poetry for me, and they paint me beautiful paintings. I've had a lot of portraits made of me. So touching. I cry a lot.
You do? You get touched by it?
Yes.
Risqué produced a video with you, Poker Face.
Poker Face.
How was it working with him?
I love Risqué. He was wonderful to work with, so talented and very trustworthy. And he really gave me a lot of creative freedom and trusted my instincts, and he made me look beautiful, which is all that really matters.
But you write your own songs. You are one of the few big artists now that's rising to fame that hasn't won like a talent show, or you really started at the bottom and worked your way up. Are you proud of that today?
Yes, of course. Proud but more grateful, because all of that hard work has prepared me for my schedule and prepared me for my life today. So I feel like I graduated from pop singer college, university, and now I'm in real life.
What does the future hold for Lady Gaga?
The future, new music and new performance art, installations, live shows, more fashion. I'm just not going to stop. I'm here, and I'm making music.
Cool.
I just would like to say I love my Norwegian fans, and I'll see you tonight. It was great. You know, we went right through the night. I was in Toronto last night, and yeah, we just went right through. And I got off the airplane, but you know, you don't get to shoot with Testino every day, so we were all kind of like, get some orange juice and coffee, motherfucker. Let's get to work.
So was it fun? He's fun to work with?
He's so amazing. We had a blast. And most importantly, you know, he really, he really believes in me, and I believe in him. So like together, it just was like one of those really beautiful experiences. And Matt and Nicola were there with me, and for us, it's kind of like, I asked Maddie today, I said, 2 years ago when we met, if I said to you, in 2 years we'll be shooting the cover of V, what would you have said? He was like, fuck off. No way.
You know, I didn't know quite what to expect in terms of the looks today, because I guess I just associate Testina with, I don't know, more conservative kind of thing. So I was like, is she going to be all dressed down in like gowns and that sort of thing? And sure enough, you were you.
Thanks, so that's funny because he wanted me naked all day long.
Really?
And Nicola was like sneaking in designer stuff. He was like, put this Fendi belt on right now. It was great though.
Yeah.
You know, he understands me, and he said, I want this to be about you. I don't want it to be about clothes. And you know, the three of us are clothes lovers, so we're like, make it about the clothes. We don't care about the hair.
I saw Johnny Weir show up for a second.
Oh, yeah.
It was nice to see him here. I met him before, too, and I know he's a fan.
He's so sweet. I've never met him before.
Yeah.
This is my first time.
You've got fans in, like, so many corners of so many different worlds. It's pretty amazing.
He's so cool. I remember when I first saw that performance, I was like,
yeah.
I mean, just... For me, I don't feel like I really broke with Just Dance. Mm-hmm. It was sort of like my first record, and yes, it was the #1 single, but you can soon as come and go away quite quickly. So when Poker Face started to do well and I saw that come up, I was like, oh wow.
And honestly, as much attention as Just Dance got, I feel like Poker Face has had such, here's a word you'll appreciate, penetration culturally. I see people, Weezer and Faith No More, and people cover, and Justin.
Listen, when Faith No More covered, wait, I just need to explain something. My special relationship with Faith No More as a young woman, that was my epic, was my burlesque number at the bar that I used to work at.
Wow.
And I used to fog myself and dance to epic Faith No More. And I love Faith No More.
Yeah.
And when I found that out, I was like, shit.
It's like, it's a song that obviously, you know, a lot of people who might not even be necessarily pop music fans all the time are getting into.
Well, I think it's I think you can see, like, in the acoustic version of the song, it's a pop record because we made it a pop record, but it could be any kind of record.
Absolutely. Getting back to working with Testina, you know, and I'm not even sure what the question here is here, but there seems to me to be a subtext to, you know, someone who creates a record called The Fame, with a song called The Fame, and a song certainly called Paparazzi, and everything that implies and involves. Working with a guy who has obviously shot just about every big name in the world, but maybe most memorably and most conspicuously Princess Diana. Now, people talk about Diana as being sort of emblematic of what happens when fame and all that goes with it sort of spirals out of control. Do you have any thoughts on either her or, you know, the reality of fame? I think there's been a tendency on the part of journalists to think that what this record really is kind of a send-up of fame, and that you're not necessarily so into the idea of every single thing that fame can bring.
It's actually interesting.
It's a bit complicated question.
I speak that way as well, so I think I understand what you're asking. It's interesting you bring up Diana because she was much of the inspiration behind the Paparazzi music video that we just did. When we first talked about the video, you know, I said to Matt, I said, you know, this song's not really about loving the cameras. This song is about something much more dangerous. It's about fame whoring and seduction, but it's also about social death. And Diana, in truth, is the most devastating and iconic martyr of fame. Mm-hmm. That woman died because of her fame, and the video, in its way, when I fall off the balcony, and you know you can't tell because it's like, did he push her off because was it him or was it the cameras? Because the cameras were there, so you don't know if it's him or it's the cameras. And I plummet to my death, and as I'm bleeding, you have to watch the video over and over again.
Or we believe it's your death.
I believe it's my death, but then I come back. But if you listen, the cameras, as they're snapping, and we put knife sounds into the snapping of the cameras, you hear them say, beautiful, beautiful. I got the shot. So they're not helping me. No one's coming to my rescue. They're banking on my misfortune. And it's one of those, that was the most important message for me to tell, because it is a very strong misconception that the fame, my album, is about how wonderful fame is. I wasn't famous when I wrote this record. I was eating shit in the industry and had nothing. So it's about the dream of wanting to make something of yourself, being passionate. My passion for music and for art and for fashion is so deep in my blood that I could cry just sitting here talking to you about it. And that music video and Princess Diana and Testino, everything that we do, we want it to be powerful, we want it to be soulful, and we want to tell a real story about pop culture.
And it's interesting because, in this year alone, and since the end of last year, beginning of this year, I've seen you with the Hiltons, Perez and Paris. I've seen you, on American Idol, which is one of our sort of iconic, it is the sort of destination television for this famed culture we're in. You live in TMZ land, LA now, right? I mean,
well, I'm never there, but
okay.
My shit's there.
All right. It's just, you talk about Andy a lot. I wonder, with what he represented, Warhol that is, of course, what he represented in his proclamations on fame, what he would have made of the world we live in 2009, where there are so many people who are famous in a fashion for really doing not much but having, say, 8 babies, or being Spencer and Heidi, and I'm sorry, what have they accomplished exactly? You're a creator, and you have whatever people make of it. God knows you can be polarizing, but you've created something and continue to create. Do you have any thoughts on a world in which, for really doing not much of anything, people are celebrities?
Well, for me, I'm not interested in being a celebrity.
Yeah.
I'm interested in being an artist. And there's a very big difference. And I don't think there's a very fine line. I think it's pretty clear who's a celebrity and who's an artist. The catch is that when you make pop music, you meet people in certain scenarios. You DJ at a nightclub, people show up, there's cameras everywhere. Of course I get my picture snapped with lots of different people. I'm also a nice person. I never say no. Gaga, let me take a picture with you.
Right.
I'm too good to take a picture with that person. I'm just not like that. I'm like, hey, I worked really hard to get where I am, and all I care about is my music. But it's interesting you bring up American Idol, because even though that is like this incredibly American pop show that you're speaking about, sort of the antithesis of things that Warhol stood for, we had a very Warholian approach to that performance. The dress was designed by Benjamin Cho, who is a very dear friend of Matt's and now a dear friend of mine. And we believe in him. He's an incredible designer, and we wanted to put him in the mainstream. The violinist, Daniel Bernard Romain, very old, dear friend of mine from NYU that I knew. He's a violin hip-hop player. I flew him to California to play on Idol with me. For us, that was a New York performance. We did it.
Bringing some in New York.
We did it in Hollywood, but the heart and the soul behind the performance was from New York.
And I'll hand it to you. It was one of the, if not the most interesting thing on the entire this season of Idol. I mean, it was just, that show needs something slightly subversive to it. So, I think.
See, but we don't see it as subversive.
No.
We think it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Subversive can be beautiful, but we don't. The conception that Gaga is kooky for the sake of being kooky is so wrong. we think it's beautiful. We love avant-garde, but it's not for the sake of avant-garde. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah. You know, I've heard you talk so many times about influences over the years. We talked about Warhol, but musically, I mean, you many times cited Bowie and the New York Dolls and Velvet Underground and plenty of people that I come across, because I feel like I've read maybe now a dozen interviews with you, and never, and I know it's an easy superficial comparison to make maybe in your view, I don't think ever once have I seen you on your own bring up the name Madonna. And like, you know, I think beyond the superficial similarities, I think people come back to the Italian American thing. They come back to the driven thing. They come back to the fact that there's a visual thread, and a thought goes into visuals as well as the music. The fact, and so I mean, I do think there's valid, you know, grounds for comparison there. Do you agree? And do you have any, in terms of your growing up, your influences, history with her?
Well, I love Madonna. I used to listen to Madonna with my mom at home when I was little, and we would dance around. And you know, I have fond memories of learning about my sexuality through Madonna's music.
So you were, I think, you were born in '86.
'86.
So she was about 5 years into her career when you were even born.
Right.
So do you remember like first hearing?
I remember the first time I heard Vogue.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I remember the cover of the single on the white psych and the lingerie with the hair. And I just remember my mother was kind of like, oh, and I was really young, and I just couldn't. I used to play it over. You see, I don't listen to like my iPod shuffle. I'm not into shuffle.
Right.
I listen to one record for like a month.
Wow.
And I just like live in that one. I mean, actually, I listened to Abbey Road, I think, for like 4 months straight before I felt like I really
interesting. So you're not
understood.
really like an ADD type of person.
No. I like, for me with a record, I've got to like I have to make love to the record and roll around in bed with it and have a cigarette, pillow talk, you know, like everything.
Are you that way with projects you work on?
Yes.
With songs or with looks?
Yes, but to get back to the Madonna thing, because I don't want to deviate from your question, because it's funny, we kind of did, and you make your point. But I have found that I arrive upon comparisons more than I make an effort to be like them. So I was making music in New York, and I've been called so many different things. I mean, it's like, when I was a brunette, they called me Amy Winehouse in New York. When I was a blonde, they called me Madonna, and then they called me Christina, and then they called me Gwen. And then, I mean, it's like, they just list off every single female pop artist, and I think
that's kind of lazy.
I think it's just that people don't have good references, and they only their musical knowledge only goes so far back. I don't know, with the Madonna reference, it's funny because I never saw it until people started to say it.
Yeah.
And then I thought, okay, I can see that, because I'm kind of I say what I think, and I say what other people think they shouldn't say but are thinking, and
I bet you're a tough boss to work with.
Well, I'm very bossy, but I'm smart. So bossy and smart.
So I mean, I don't think there's bad comparisons. You know, when people use her as and I understand why you don't really want to go there that often, probably because it seems sort of. Well,
it's also it's almost safer in a way to say how much I look up to David Bowie, and because they're men, and people won't. Truthfully, in a real way, I don't think that I'm like David Bowie. He's a reference of mine. I appreciate his philosophies. I honor who he was as an artist, and I think about what would Bowie do right now. It's not I want to be Bowie, it's how would Bowie do this? Or with Warhol, to get back to your question, today I think Warhol would have done what he did then, but in a different way. I just went to his exhibit in Paris, and it was funny because my team was screaming at me because I left the hotel for 4 hours. I miss all kinds of shit, but I really wanted to go. So I'm going through the museum, and something I learned while I was there is that he made his own fame using the fame of other people in the beginning with the silk screens. He purchased the photo of Marilyn Monroe, and then he repeated the image. He purchased the image of Liza Minnelli, and then it was repeated. So I think that he would have started in the same way, and he would have grown within this era. But perhaps it wouldn't have been those people that you mentioned. Perhaps there would have been other children of Warhol.
Yeah, I would think so. Yeah. Not to belabor comparisons, but they, a few years ago, they were doing the same thing with saying that someone else was the new Madonna, and that, of course, was Britney. And then the sort of contrast, it seems to me, what happened was that we were all a couple years ago, and I'd imagine it was around the time that you wrote Quicksand, watching this just sort of sad thing play out in the media with what seemed apparently to be going on with her. And, there were cameras in her face every day, and this is getting back to this all ties in, goes back to the paparazzi and, every trip to the 7-Eleven and every time, she would get out of a car and maybe underdressed in some people's opinion, they were there, to capture it. Did you have any thoughts on that whole episode? I mean, things seem to be getting back on track, career-wise and personally for her. Did you have any thoughts on that when that was all going on?
Not really.
You just, yeah.
Because I have a weird philosophy about my work. I don't know how Britney works. I never worked with her in the studio.
Right.
I wrote that song for her, a few songs for her, but we always joke that when we're fucked up, we're doing our best work. So maybe she's doing her best work. I mean, I don't know.
Right.
Because when we are all hungover and mental and can't breathe because if I don't make this new electronic piece that I dreamt up last night, I'm gonna fucking hack my hands off. That's when we feel like we're real artists. I don't know, but I can't judge on it. I'm just saying that I don't judge other artists, and I don't care what anybody else is doing. I really don't. I care about work in the world, and I appreciate other people's music, and I love music and I love culture. And when it comes to judgment and criticism, that's something that's sacred in my house of creative people. If we criticize, it's very specific and it's brief and it's only a note to improve our own work. I don't focus on other people. I am 100% focused on being as innovative and original and soulful. I cannot stress this word enough because people believe that electronic music is soulless.
Right.
And it's not. And you know why it's not? Because the soul that I feel from my fucking beautiful fans at my show cannot be a lie. It can't. I've never in my life seen the intensity in their faces. I mean, they blood suck and kill to be together. I mean, there's glitter and there's sweat and they're dancing and there's hair bows and they believe in it so much and it's real. In those moments, it's real. They bring my music to life.
Why do you think that it has a reputation of being cold or soulless or robotic? Or?
Well, I think that dance music in America was for a very long time kind of like underground and gay and not on the mainstream. That'll never get played on Top 40 radio. And the party scene and vanity is typically just revered as soulless. I don't believe it's. I mean, I said in my Rolling Stone interview about my past, obsessively doing makeup in front of the mirror while I blew my brains out and listened to The Cure.
Right.
I think that was full of soul, and I learned a lot about myself, and I wrote some of my best songs at that time in my life. So I just mean to say that I don't really know what I'm trying to say.
I think there's plenty of soulful electronic music, and you know, I that is probably a bad rap that music gets. The other night at the Much Music Awards, you when you received your award, you thanked God and the gays, and I thought that was pretty amazing, considering, you know, not a lot of people at your level or in your situation would say something like that, and that's, of course, you do all the time. And you've also said that, you know what, I'm determined to continue playing gay clubs regardless of how big things get for me, and that sometimes artists in your situation with gay followings will kind of turn their back on that. Why do you think that happens, and why is it important to you to continue doing that?
I don't really know exactly why it happens. I think, for the most part, I don't really like a lot of... I gotta tell you, I don't meet many celebrities that I really like. I really don't. So I don't really know. I don't relate to it. For me, I really worked myself from the ground up. I started with nothing. It was a keyboard and a 400 square foot apartment, which is not so bad. I mean,
in the city,
400 not so bad, okay. Right? I love that I can say that to you and you understand.
I mean, yeah.
So
I live not far from where you used to live on Clinton Street.
Yeah,
right? I live not far from there.
I love that apartment.
Yeah.
Keyboards, turntables in the kitchen, really shitty turntables. Yeah. And like that was it, and a dream, right? And my father jokes because he used to have panic attacks in the middle of the night because I used to rehearse at like 1 a.m. at this rehearsal space on Stanton Street. Stanton and Ludlow. And we know Earth Matters.
Sure.
Yeah, right, so it's right downstairs. So I would carry my piano myself down the stairs, wheel it all the way to Ludlow Street, and then carry it all the way down the stairs, down to this this basement area. And he used to have panic attacks that I was going to fall because I was by myself, and I'm like too headstrong to call anyone to help me out. So that part of my life has just really changed the way that I look at everything that happens to me today. The gay community is the single reason that I'm here today, with the exception of God and my family and the house and Matthew and Vincent, Herbert, who signed me and discovered me. The gay community is the reason that I'm here, because I started playing gay clubs in America, and then I would go to London where they didn't even have Just Dance, and I'd go to GAY to play a little show. I thought no one knew who I was, and there's like thousands of people. I mean, it was like underground communities. It was like I did pop music the way indie rock bands do rock and roll. And how the fuck could I turn my back on all of those people that held me up and said, listen to this girl's music? They really fought for me. I couldn't help me.
Yeah.
And I love playing in gay clubs. Fuck, I mean, but besides the loyalty factor, like, listen.
Yeah. I mean, and this country still has an interesting relationship on a sort of a mainstream pop level with it. It's gotten better, but, you know, we talked about American Idol. That whole sort of wink thing about Adam Lambert this year, and is he or isn't he? And then to have like the big Rolling Stone, like, are we still at the point where we've got to do a big pronouncement on the cover of a magazine? Yes, I am, in fact. You know, Ellen did it how many years ago, you know? And then, you know, I also, another point is I remember about a year ago, the breakthrough female of the year, I was talking in 2008, in July of 2008, it would probably be Katy Perry, right? Who got a lot of mileage out of a song that, let's face it, got a fair amount of criticism in the gay community. I Kissed a Girl, because quite honestly, it played into this sort of broheme mentality of like, oh yeah, that's hot, you know, a couple of girls kissing, yeah, woo-woo. I mean, that's a completely different sort of take on it than you have, which is much more kind of frank and in your face and honest, and these are my friends and this is the reality. I think that's a healthy thing. That's not really a question, it's just an observation. I mean, do you have any thoughts on sort of that take and the fact that, let's face it, girl and girl thing is a little bit more, I mean, there was girl and girls in Just Dance, right, the video. I don't.
You know, it's in all my videos.
There's a what?
It's like it's everywhere in my work.
Yeah. But any thoughts on that and sort of like the sort of mainstream
Sure.
attitude?
You know, again, I can't speak for other people,
Right.
and I don't judge how other people choose to represent themselves as artists.
And I don't mean to try and draw you into like knocking people.
You know what?
Yeah.
Listen,
Yeah.
I've done enough interviews to know the difference,
Right.
and I appreciate a great question. You know what? I think that everyone needs to just make music, or make a dress, or build a show. And you know, I was always honest about my sexual freedoms. I did say in the beginning that I didn't like answering the question on bisexuality only because I didn't want my gay fans to feel like I was using the gay community for edginess.
Right.
Oh, she's edgy because she likes girls.
The lesbo thing.
Right, and then so I didn't say I would just say yeah. I am I bisexual? Whatever you want to call it, you can call it. And then those pictures of me and Lady Starlight in New York were released, and it was kind of like, gas out of the bag, you know what I mean? I can't really say very much more, but I think that I really, as much as I might art direct every moment of my life, I really do feel to an almost nauseating degree in the press that I really focus on my art, and I say that a lot, my art, my work, the technology, the house, my creativity. And people say, there's Lady Gaga again yakking about her art. Do you want me to yak about how I may or may not be gay, or may or may not, I don't know.
I guess I'm not interested in what your sex life. I'm more interested in whether there's any kind of, because you do have strong feelings about it, whether you want to infuse some kind of statement, political, if you want to call it political, you can call it political, about that kind of thing into your music.
I want people to feel like they can be themselves. I really, my fans, the fame, this record, when they're at my show, it's a fucking free for all. Mm-hmm. People are having sex in the audience. It's like,
really?
Yes. I remember at the New York show, my sister, actually Madonna was at the same show, and she goes like this. She texted me and she's like, Madonna is 15 feet away from me, and there's two guys having sex in the audience in the pit. This is awesome. My sister's 17.
Oh my God.
And I just remember
Wasn't
thinking,
her daughter with her at that show too?
Yeah, Lourdes.
Yeah.
And she was so cute. Oh my
Yeah.
God. But you know, some people might think it's inappropriate. I think it's beautiful, and it's like this amazing event, and it's fun, and I just remember thinking, this is exactly what I wanted. Wow, I've got Madonna and I've got gay sex.
There's certainly sexuality to your music, and there's a sexual aspect to what you do visually. It's not, and this is, I think, maybe what we've talked about the gay guys. Now, the straight male audience may, and I don't know what your take on their reaction to you generally is, but you don't present. It's not a coquettish kind of sexuality. You don't seem to ever want to.
Campy.
Yeah, or even flirty, particularly, right?
No, it's a little bit more bossy.
Yeah, exactly. And can you? Is it hard to gauge whether their takeaway from that is like they're scared of you or intimidated, or some of them into it?
I'm still latching on to the fact that people think I'm sexy, because this is like a new thing for me.
Yeah.
Because for the first year of my career, everybody called me a tranny robot and thought that I had a little penis.
Well, you told Jonathan Ross you had a big donkey dick. So.
I did tell him. Well, yes, I did.
I'm just quoting you. I'm not.
Well, I
it's
did
not my
tell him
words.
that. And you know, so now these things, my aesthetic, my way of dressing, my live performances, the way I speak and carry myself, they're now transitioning from this sort of weird place into a mainstream place where, you know, kind of like regular guys are like, they think I'm sexy, and I'm sort of like, well, you don't have long hair and stink, which is what the most of the guys that like me are like. So, you know, I guess I'm a little. When I think I said this once before, I think I've changed a little bit what people think is sexy about me in particular. A year ago, my cone head wasn't sexy, but now sometimes when I wear it, I get hit on.
So getting that reaction from guys more now, that doesn't make you want to soften up what you do in terms of your look?
I don't create based on other people's reactions. I create on impulse and vision and creative energy with my partners. You know, my music, I genuinely have like religious visions. Like as I'm falling asleep, a lot it happens. I'm just falling asleep, and I've learned that my best work happens when I consistently execute every vision and I don't allow any to go away. So if I let one drop, it sort of like fucks with my creative flow. So I have to write everyone down, and I tell Matt every creative thought that comes into my head, I tell Matthew, and then it becomes a dress or a pair of sunglasses, or I tell Matt and he says, "Oh, that sounds great," and then I go write a song and I send it to everybody and they all freak out and oh, that's the re-release record, you know? And it's a series of impulses. I don't say, ooh, they say I'm like this, so I think I'll change my music. Like fuck that, it's not real.
Right. You we were talking about relationships before and your audience. There's a song, I believe a new song called Future Love, right? And I think the other night you had a comment about Prop 8 in California, and is that sort of the lyric of it? I haven't heard the song yet, I just know it exists. Is it sort of address that kind of thing?
The song's about, it's about a lot of different things, but the song is most simply about love and art and the dream of the future. And that's why I wear the lovely Hussein Chilean bubble dress in the show with the bubble piano. A bubble is this simple, very fragile, easy to understand, beautiful, dreamlike thing that I believe represents this future love. And you know, the whole Prop 8 California event for me is it's a time for us all to imagine a world where we can all, in the future, love more harmoniously and more equally. And I really feel that record for me was, I didn't even record it. I didn't want to sell it. I just wanted to play it live in some sort of bubble installation because I believed it would change the atmosphere in the room, and I thought that it might speak to them, and I thought that leading up to the Prop 8 hearing that it might change things. And it didn't, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't keep trying. I mean, the song's also about dildos, but it's like it's about lots of future love, biological man, it's kind of a play on plasticity and synthetics and dreams, and there's a lot of different layers in my songs, but most simply, like I said, it's about love and art, togetherness, and the dream of that in the future. Not too long ago, I read a really nice piece about you by Sasha Frere Jones in the New Yorker, and he's one of the most respected music sort of critics and writers in this country. And it's interesting because critically, you've fared pretty well, I think, and I wonder whether that matters to you, because I know we talk a lot about art and how it's important to create art. On the other hand, you say I celebrate pop music and I make no apologies for being a pop music artist.
at the end of the day, does being taken sort of seriously by the critical community, does it matter?
Well, I think it does to the critical community that you are referring to, because I believe that I know who you're referring to, and
music journalists.
Well, music journalists, but the real music journalists, and you know,
not just people writing pop,
yeah,
sort of gossipy pop
exactly.
songs.
So, yes,
yeah.
And in the fashion world, like, if I'm on the worst dressed list and like Us Weekly, I really couldn't fucking care less. But if Karl Lagerfeld makes a statement that he thinks I'm, an ugly hag, I would be upset.
Right.
It's Karl Lagerfeld. But for me, that is where we put our focus in the house and on the creative team. We shot with Testino today.
Amazing.
We're doing something right. I shot with David LaChapelle. He's my good friend now. I'm doing something right. I could go on and on about
Grammys. Would that matter to you? Like, I know that you had a nomination this year, but if the album or Best New Artist or any of that would that matter to you, or are you fine without that kind of validation?
It would matter. It wouldn't not matter. But if it didn't happen, I wouldn't stop making music, and it wouldn't necessarily make me say I did something wrong and I have to fix what I did so that next year I get a Grammy. It's that I genuinely was moved to tears today when I took those glasses off my face, the circuit glasses that Dada built, and I looked into the monitor and I saw the photograph that Testino took, and I cried and I said, fuck, look at that fucking photograph.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we did that. That was something that we projected from our souls years ago, and now, like, it's
a reality.
It's real.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, my final suggestion about the Grammys is they love to pair sort of veteran icons and new artists, and I'm telling you, Bowie doing Fame and you doing The Fame, or he could do Let's Dance and Just Dance.
Right.
Either one works.
Well, so I'm trying to think of what.
Is there anyone else you'd want to?
No, I love Bowie. I listened to Aladdin Sane is my favorite Bowie record. So maybe we would do something from that.